Hey guys, coming to you from the road today, and with that in mind, we're actually going to have the amazing Jayden Clark, who's one of our jazz gym trainers, and actually an awesome saxophonist who studied with me for 6 years, 4 of which were at the San Francisco Conservatory. And so Jayden's actually going to be doing the lesson today, and with me on the road a little bit more this fall, we're going to actually have Jayden jumping in here sometimes to keep on pushing out content for you guys, so you guys can keep on learning stuff. And so today we're going to talk about the altered scale, which is one of my favorite devices for improvisation. So Jayden's going to get into this now, and if you want to work on more concepts like this with us directly, you can absolutely do that through the Jazz Gym training sessions. Check that out online. There's actually a 7-day free trial running right now for a limited time if you want to try it risk-free. If you prefer to be more self-guided with this sort of thing, you can also check out, I have a book out on dominant phrases, and it also has a section on altered dominant, which you're welcome to check out for more content on this as well. As always, thanks so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and hope you enjoy this lesson from Jayden Clark.
Hey guys, today we're going to do a deep dive on what the altered scale is, where it comes from, and how we can incorporate it into our own improvisation. This scale has been used in many different situations by every jazz legend from Charlie Parker to Michael Brecker. Its subtlety can make it hard to identify when listening to a solo and can feel slightly awkward when playing it at first. So to help us with fully internalizing the altered scale, we're going to take a look at where it comes from and how to apply it into our own playing, and analyze how the masters of the altered scale used it in their improvisation. Approaching and learning new material in this structure is incredibly beneficial because we want to understand it technically, apply it to isolated chord progressions, and have a full understanding of how the pros applied it. In fact, this lesson and its material are structured exactly like a jazz gym session, where we make progress incrementally on all aspects of our improvisation skills by doing 3 high-intensity 20-minute workout blocks. These daily group sessions combine approaches for vocabulary development, technique, line construction, chord progression fluency, sound development, and ear training. Every week we have a different theme that we focus in on, and this week's theme has been scale, technique, and application. So with that in mind, let's take a closer look at the altered scale using the same systematic 3-block approach that we use in the jazz gym. We'll do 1 block for technique, 1 block for phrase application, and 1 block for harmonic context. Now, what is the altered scale? Well, according to Wikipedia, the altered scale, or altered dominant scale, consists of 7 notes where all non-essential chord tones have been altered. That's a clear definition, but first we need to determine which notes are essential tones, also known as chord tones, and non-essential tones, also known as extensions. We can think of our essential tones as the notes needed to make a basic chord structure and give us enough information to orally define it. Those notes are the root, 3rd, and 7th. You're probably thinking, well, what about the 5th? Well, the 5th is actually one of those altered notes in the altered scale, so we'll come back to that one in just a minute. All the information we need when it comes to identifying what chord the altered scale can be played over is the root, because it gives us the tonal center of the chord, the 3rd because it tells us if the chord is major or minor, and the 7th because it tells us if the chord is major 7 or minor 7. In an altered scale, we have the root, a major 3rd, and a minor 7th. This tells us we can use the altered scale over a dominant 7th chord. Now, let's check out those notes that we alter in the scale. The 5th is altered to a flat 5 and a sharp 5. The 9th is altered to a flat 9 and a sharp 9. The 11th is altered to a sharp 11, which is also equivalent to the sharp 4. The 13th is altered to a flat 13, which is also equivalent to a sharp 5. Now, this may seem like a lot of information, but there's a much simpler way to think about this scale. If you know your melodic minor scale, then you already know your altered scale because it's actually the melodic minor 7th mode. So that means you start a melodic minor scale from the 7th degree, then you're already playing the altered scale. However, it is important to keep in mind that an altered scale has a very different harmonic function from a melodic minor scale. So we need to learn the altered scale as its own harmonic device, not just as a mode of the melodic minor. For instance, the chord D7 altered, which uses the D altered scale to voice the chord, has a very different function from E flat minor major 7, which uses the E flat melodic minor scale. Even though the notes of the scales are exactly the same, having a different root and being used in a totally different harmonic context gives these different chords and scales a very unique character from one another. For instance, here is the E flat melodic minor used in the context of a minor 2-5-1. And here is a D7 altered used in the context of a minor 2-5-1. So, as we can see and hear from these examples, the altered scale is typically used to build an altered dominant chord, resolving into the 1. And the melodic minor scale is typically used in a minor major 7 chord, which is typically the resolving point of a chord. If all this theory is feeling confusing for you right now, do not worry. This stuff takes time to absorb and digest, which is one of the reasons why we always give little breakdowns to the concepts that we practice in the jazz gym. But the only thing you need to worry about right now is getting this altered scale down a bit technically so we can start to use it in our improvisation. So let's move forward with that now. First, let's check out this scalar exercise, which is a great way to get the altered sound under our fingers. It's very important that when you learn a scale, you go beyond just simply playing it up and down. You absolutely need to apply different scale shapes to the scale learning process in order to get more technically fluid with the sound and in order to start improvisation naturally with the sound. We start this shape with a 1-2-3-5 pattern and then connect back down diatonically with a step between our second degree. We then repeat this shape all the way up the scale, and that will sound like this. For descending, we play the same 1-2-3-5 pattern, followed by the same diatonic connection back down, only this time we connect diatonically down to the 7th degree by step, so that the shape gets us back to the tonic an octave below. That will sound like this. So if you want to start using this sound in your improvisation, the first step is to get technical exercises like this under your fingers and into your ears. The best way to do that is by setting a challenge according to your skill level. For instance, in the jazz gym, we would play this exercise as one of the 3 blocks in a full workout. And in each block, we also have 3 different workout options with specific goals for those 20 minutes. The green workout would be the most accessible option. So this would be playing the diatonic pattern ascending and descending in C. And we include a suggested bass tempo at 60 BPM. And then we want to try and increase that tempo by about 10 BPM within the training block, and this is called our push tempo. If you're up for a harder challenge and you would want to raise your target, the blue workout would be you would play through and memorize the same exercise in at least 3 different keys, and we suggest the bass tempo would be 100 BPM, and then you want to try and push this tempo by about 20 BPM during that training block. If you're an extremely advanced pro, you should go for the red workout, which is what Chad and all the jazz gym trainers do when we join these jazz gym sessions just to practice ourselves. So the red workout would be to memorize this same exercise in as many keys as possible. We want to start that bass tempo a little higher at 120 BPM, and we want to try and push this tempo by at least 30 BPM, basically as high as we can within that 20-minute block. Now, you may also find that even advanced players may pick the green workout if it's material that they are unfamiliar with, or they just want to be very deliberate in approaching the fundamentals. Regardless of which workout you pick, there's no better way of measuring progress than setting and achieving goals. Spending 20 laser-focused minutes on any technique exercise will ensure that you are incrementally making progress on the technical and theoretical aspects of your improvisational skills, which leads us to applying the altered scale to a phrase. Before I play any phrase, Take a moment to think about what we've learned about the scale so far, and see if you can remember where we would apply it. That's right, we'll be applying this over a dominant 7th chord, and more specifically, an altered dominant 7th chord. An altered dominant 7th chord is technically considered to be a dominant 7, sharp 9, flat 13 chord. However, many pianists and guitarists will use the altered scale to build chords when they see other types of dominant 7 chords, including the dominant 7 flat 9, dominant 7 sharp 9, dominant 7 sharp 5, because adding the other alterations that you'll find in the altered scale just sounds so nice when you build a chord. Now, since this is clearly such a useful sound, let's check out what an effective altered phrase sounds like over a static altered dominant chord using only the notes from the altered scale. Now remember that, as I mentioned earlier, when applying new scales, be sure to move beyond just playing the scale up and down in order to develop muscle memory and phrasing. The more you practice scales with shapes, like in the exercise we did earlier, the easier it will be to naturally apply the scale in a way that is melodic, like the example I just played. So now, let's check out how to apply the altered scale to a minor 2-5-1 phrase. This is probably the most common context that you'll see the altered scale used in a harmonic device. Make sure to pay close attention to how smoothly you can resolve the altered sound into a minor chord. As you can see here, the use of the altered sound actually starts on beat 3 of the first measure and leads into that 5 chord with chromatic approach notes. The same thing is done to resolve to the 7th of the 1 chord. Okay, so now let's check out another 2-5-1 phrase from a legend of the music. This comes from one of my favorite solos of all time, and that's a Michael Brecker on Confirmation. This is a solo that he plays as a duo with Chick Corea on the drums. The lick that we'll take a look at in just a second here is over the last 2 measures of the bridge. Notice that this is indeed a major 2-5-1, and it goes to show how versatile the altered scale really is in a different harmonic context. Check out how Brecker actually starts this altered lick on the 2 chord and perfectly resolves to the 1 chord by step. The beauty of the altered scale is that because it features all possible alterations of the dominant 7th chord, we are always a step away from a potential resolution. Now, when delving into more advanced solos like this, it's easy to become overwhelmed as there's going to be a ton of language that is foreign to us. This is perfectly normal, so do not sweat it. Always remember that nothing beats slow, repetitive practice, and as long as you're willing to dedicate a bit of time to this stuff and repeat it as much as you can internalize this language much more quickly and effectively. In the Jazz Gym, we introduce and revisit material like the altered scale and its applications every single day, with 5 live sessions happening daily, so you can join at whatever time is most convenient for you. This week, we're actually offering a 7-day free trial, so you can try it totally risk-free. Just make sure to book your first session soon because we'll be reaching membership capacity quickly as the program becomes more and more popular. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the content, and I really do hope to see you over in the Jazz Gym real soon.